Well, welcome to our community engagement program. And I'm telling you, I can see at this moment, you can see who's in the studio, no other than our Executive Mayor of Croydon, Jason Perry.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. And before we go into Croydon, as it were, you're a Croydon lad yourself, aren't you?
I am indeed, just like you, yes.
Yeah.
Croydon, born and bred.
I love Croydon. I mean, tell me what part of Croydon did you remember growing up?
So I grew up kind of south of the borough. I grew up in Purley, generally South Croydon, and then moved to Sanderstead when I was around 13-ish. But my aunts and uncles all lived in the north of the borough. So I would regularly be up at Thornton Heath, Crystal Palace, Crystal Palace Library. I remember going there with my aunt a lot as a young lad. And learning to swim at Thornton Heath, the old Victorian baths.
I remember it well, with the cubicles down the side.
Yep, those are the ones.
Yeah, my father used to use that place for baptisms for church, so I can see it right now. I was baptised there as well.
Fantastic.
So it's good memories.
Yeah.
So you're the ideal person then to run Croydon, because you know what's going on in Croydon.
Well, I'd like to think so. So I've been doing it 4 years now. So hopefully I've got some idea of what we're about and where we're going and what we need to do to change and improve our borough. And I think we are changing. We are improving. I'm really keen to keep on doing that work.
Do you enjoy it, Jason?
Yes, I do. I mean, it's a privilege. As we said, we're Croydon boys. We're born and bred here. It's our hometown. We've seen our borough kind of get dragged through the mud and get really bad press, and we want to see our hometown be the best it can be. And so it's a privilege to be that elected mayor, that kind of leader of the borough. And most of the time it's a joy. There's clearly sometimes you have to make some really tough decisions.
I'm sure.
And, that's not always nice and it's not always easy, but it's what comes with leadership and the things that you have to do. But on the whole, yes, I enjoy it.
It's good. And we know we're in the season, as it were, as we come on to be re-elected directly.
Indeed. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to that? Are you looking for what it takes leading up to the election?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in election fever for so long now, and now we're in the last few weeks, and really, let's kind of get there, let's get on with it. There's a big job to do in this borough. And uncertainty is not a good thing. No. We need to carry on. I want to carry on and continue the work I've been doing. We've achieved a lot. We've got Croydon back on track. Lots to do, and I want to get on and do it. So I'm very hopeful that I will be there to do that after the 7th of May.
There's one thing about you, Jason, and I do notice you're everywhere. In a nice possible way. Yeah. Always where it matters, from all communities, all walks of life and faith. Whatever happens in Croydon, we're there. Not just because, I have to be there because I'm the mayor. I read you, and it's a genuine concern. And whatever happens, you're always there. How have you begun to develop a great relationship with individuals? I mean, I watch you. You'll come in, you'll make a little joke there, and they won't start nothing until you're there, because I feel that you do support. How do you feel in that area?
Well, it's a great privilege to come into all these different spaces, and amazing things happen in our borough. Different communities, different churches doing great things, and it's an honour to kind of be included in a lot of what these groups are doing and what residents are doing, people like yourself, working in churches, etc. And it's just an honour to be there. And I've, from the outset, I've always said that I wanted to be in the community. Yeah. I didn't want to be elected, disappear into a council office and come out 4 years later. No, and you don't know what the needs and desires of people are if you're not out there with them. And I'm always listening, always picking up tidbits of this is wrong, this is great, that's great. And you kind of respond to things and change things, and it's the best way to keep engaged and keep grounded. We've got to know what the people want.
Well, yes, you're perfectly right. I mean, let's get to this point here. Since August 25, we've had the commission come in. And sometimes I wondered myself, how do you and the commission work together? Do you feel them constantly breathing over your neck or looking down your neck or looking at you in ways? What's the relationship like, having the commission And he was elected mayor.
Yeah, so the relationship is a good relationship. We work collaboratively together. It's no secret that I opposed commissioners coming to Croydon. I didn't feel it was appropriate. And I felt it was a political move by the government.
So you don't think it's a good move just to support or to get Croydon on track?
I think it's working well. The initial, if you're Labour control Warrington, who's in a much worse position than Croydon, you get envoys, which are a level down. Mm-hmm. If you're Conservative control Croydon, you get commissioners. So there's an unfairness in the system. That's my kind of starting point. And I objected to commissioners coming. That said, the commissioners are here. And from the outset, we've worked collaboratively, respectfully. For me, it's pretty much business as usual. It's not the idea that they've come in and taken all the powers away. They haven't done that at all.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you, Jay. Just to get in there. I mean, what's the difference? You're saying they haven't come and taken any power away, and you're saying they're working collaboratively.
Yes.
Yeah. What's their role, in a sense, for people out there? Because they may think, I've come, they've taken over, so therefore, Jason does nothing. And I'm just trying to break it down to the audience. He's doing nothing because he's got the commissions dealing with.
Yeah, and there is that perception of, well, what's he doing now? Well, as I say, it's pretty much business as usual. There are 4 commissioners in total. One of the commissioners is a political commissioner, and that's something new that the government's done.
That's
and that person is a Conservative councillor from a different part of the country. If we were a Labour council, they put a Labour person in. So it's a political appointment. The other 3 are one is current. They're all chief execs, former chief execs of London boroughs.
Oh.
So they're high-ranking individuals. They come with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. And I think the fact that they're London people and they've worked in London means that they understand the context of what we're dealing with here in Croydon in a way that maybe the previous panel didn't quite understand. So on that level, they're bringing forward their own ideas. The main focus has been around the budget.
Yes.
So we've been through the budget setting process. They've been part of that process, and I think I would almost use the term critical friend. I mean, they're here for the government at the end of the day. They work for the government.
Yes.
They work for the minister. But the approach has been collaborative. Certain things that we're doing, they've kind of challenged. Is that the right way? Do you want to rethink that?
Oh, so they do have that. They do challenge what you've done in the past to say, have you thought about doing it this way? Why did you do it this way?
And in formulating the budget, it's kind of querying some of the things that we're thinking about. Do you think that's really going to deliver what you think?
Okay.
So it's a collaborative, in the same way that council officers would challenge and the whole point of local government is about working together. And politicians, I'm elected to set the policy direction of our council. I'm not elected to do the day-to-day work of the council.
Of course.
We pay professional people who are accountants, lawyers, social workers, planners, whatever they may be, to do the everyday job of the council. And we set that policy framework and we respond to what residents want. And we have a manifesto and we want to deliver that manifesto for our residents. So, the commissioners fit into that officer world where, they're looking at the papers. We've got a big transformation programme in Croydon. And one of the things that the commissioners have looked at is around the prioritisation within that programme. Have we got our priorities right?
Right.
Are we going for the thing that's going to make the biggest difference first?
Yes.
So, and that's where I think that kind of critical friend
is necessary, or it comes in. Right.
So they're not coming in here and directing us to do things. They're not coming in here and saying, right, officers, step aside, we're in charge. They've come here, they're based in Bernard Wetherell House with everyone else, and they're working as part of the team.
So it's like an oversight, making sure things that's gone wrong in the past doesn't happen again, or good advice.
And giving advice and support to what we're doing as a borough. And we've just had the first letter go to the minister, to the government, and we just had the response to that 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that recognised the good working relationships that we have. So far, it's working well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good insight, because you just thought it's a them and not us issue, but it's not. You're saying it's more of a collaborative, maybe doing best practice to ensure that we don't hit no milestones in the 40. And when are their job finished? When are they finished to say, you know what, we've been here, we're happy, we're gone, back in your hands?
So they're appointed for 2 years. There's a review at the end of 1 year, so that would be around July, August this year. But they've been appointed for 2 years, so that takes them into 2027. Obviously, I hope that at that point, one, I hope I'm still the mayor, and two, I hope that they leave at that point. But that's what they're here for. You know, we will continue working with them to get the best outcomes for the residents of Croydon at the end of the day. That's our priority, is to deliver the best we can for our residents.
You see, it's always good to hear directly from our mayor the mechanics, the mechanism of how things move and shake, and that we're hoping and trusting in years or months to come, we can see all the work behind the scenes aligns Croydon to get to where we should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I love Croydon, born and bred. So, you know, we're grateful. But look, I knew we were going to meet on the 1st of April. And I said to myself, well, you know, the best way of getting some questions out is to ask the viewers themselves. And I've got 10 questions that I want to place with you. And I want you to give me your honest opinion and your honest deliberation so we can hear where we're going. Some of these questions are from church members and community leaders as well. Okay? So you ready for them?
I'm always ready.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to come under the accountability and financial leadership. Now, since your election, what specific actions have you taken to address Croydon's financial crisis? And what measurable improvement can the residents point to today?
So the biggest thing I did when I came into office is I did an exercise called opening the books. So we knew Croydon was bankrupt. We knew the previous Labour Council had bankrupted us twice. But when I came into office, it wasn't clear where the finances were. It was just a bit of a mess, frankly. So I wanted to get back to a solid foundation. So I undertook opening the books, is what I called it. And we brought forensic accountants in. And we actually dug into the various elements of the council to understand what the issues were. And from that, we established or uncovered £161 million of legacy issues that we didn't know about. The council didn't know about them. Issues sitting in the council's books. So we had to deal with that kind of very early on. And the other thing we uncovered was £49 million of ongoing issues that had to be built into the budgets going forward. So I inherited a budget from the previous council. We kind of ran with that budget for the first year. We did the opening the books, and then we had to adjust the budget to deal with all these many issues going on. And one area, for example, was around the housing revenue account, which is to do with our council tenants.
Yes.
And council tenants pay rent, and that rent goes into an account called the housing revenue account. That's ring-fenced. It's tenants' money, and it should only be spent on housing.
Of course.
And what had happened is that account was being used to pay for lots of everyday activity that was nothing to do with housing estates. So we had to put £40 million back in to the housing revenue account, one big lump of money, and £10 million we had to take out of the general budget and put back in every year.
Wow.
So that's just one example of what opening the books uncovered for us as a council. So that's kind of gives you a flavour of some of the issues that
how we got to the
pick
present.
up and what we've had to correct. And the finances are incredibly challenging. And, we've stabilised the finances. We know where we are. You often get hiccups in local government. It happens. It's an organisation with a £1 billion turnover. It's a big organisation. So you are going to have issues crop up. But we have a much better understanding. And we have stabilised the finances. We've stabilised the debt. That debt was increasing at £15,000 an hour. So for the 8 years of the previous council, they were borrowing £15,000 an hour. And you'll see the chart of borrowing going up, and it's plateaued under my leadership over the last 4 years.
But this is good news, because, it's about management. That brings me onto the second question. Maybe you could answer that again. What went wrong to bring Croydon to the brink of bankruptcy? As you mentioned, an open book. You saw that. previous government, didn't they have an idea that this is the direction in which they were going at the time?
No, I mean, government, on a day-to-day basis, government doesn't interfere or have oversight or control of local government. They're very distinct areas. And local government, local councils, funding comes in from council tax, funding comes in from government, there are various sources of income. But local authorities manage their own affairs.
Okay.
So government doesn't really have that oversight of a day-to-day running of a council. It wasn't the brink of bankruptcy, it was bankruptcy, 2 Section 114s. And when we uncovered all of these issues, I had to issue another Section 114 because
you
at
issued
that point, we couldn't balance the books that year. So, it's just uncovered further issues. And, that's been one of the biggest issues for the council, for the borough, is getting a grip of those finances. And whilst it's still challenging, we have the grip of the finances and we know where we are with the finances.
So therefore, again, my next question is, what is your clear timeline for the restoring of the financial stability for Croydon? What is your timeline? What do you envision?
So it's hard to put a timeline to it because that debt burden we hold as a council, that £1.4 billion of debt, which is on our general accounts, that's costing us £70 to £80 million a year.
Still with lots of money here.
It's our third highest expenditure as a council.
Wow.
So number 1 and number 2 are adult and children's social care. Number 3 is paying off interest on our debts. And then everything else, planning and potholes and cutting grass and looking at it, all comes below that. And that gives you some idea of the challenge that we face. It's our third highest expenditure. So it's really difficult to say the timeline is this. What we do have is, we call it a medium-term financial strategy. That's a 3-year plan. Within that 3-year plan, we show that our reliance on external support going down every year. And the idea is we get to a point where we don't need that external support.
How is it looking now then?
So we're using a thing called EFS, which is financial support, which is something that allows you to borrow money in theory, to take capital money and spend it on your revenue, on your everyday expenditure. And we're still reliant on that at the moment. Now, how we've dealt with it is by selling assets. So rather than borrow, we've sold assets. That essentially is paying the interest. So, and that's not sustainable. You can't just go on doing that forever. As you know, once you've sold the house and spent the money on,
somewhere to live.
It's gone, and where do you live now? So it's not sustainable. And I think the recognition, and this is a conversation with commissioners and the previous panel, is that at some point the government is going to have to come to an arrangement around this debt burden that Croydon carries. I don't particularly like to use the word bailout, but we're going to have to come to some arrangement because Croydon on its own cannot handle this debt burden. Every authority borrows money. And in Croydon's example, it's a mortgage, isn't it? But then it used the credit cards and then it went on to payday loans. It just kept going through, totally unaffordable. And that's what we're now picking up the tab of as residents of the borough. And that's what we're paying for.
And this is why, when you're talking about selling off assets, that's been a part of Croydon's heritage for years and so forth. I'm sure you must get a lot of outcry about some of these buildings that has been with us, or maybe organisations wanting to buy them or have them and now have to know that they're going to have to be given notice to leave them because the council may need to sell it to raise funds. I mean,
So we've very much tried to work with, where we have community groups in our buildings, we've tried to potentially sell them the building they're in, give them extended leases before we sell a building, so they've got some security. Where we've got what I would class as heritage assets, I've very much taken those off the for sale list. I think as a borough and as a council, we own buildings that nobody cares about, kind of functional office buildings and things. But we then own heritage assets like the Samuel Coleridge Taylor Centre at South Norwood. That was on the asset disposal list. I took it off because for me, that's one of our heritage assets. And now it's a family hub. It's doing great work in the community. We've got local voluntary community faith sector groups working from there. But that was going to be, so I would rather sell an office building that nobody really knows is even the council's than sell one of our heritage assets. So I've very much protected what I regard as our heritage assets.
Well, that's an interesting question. So now I walk around Croydon and I notice as well, Luna House, all of that's been boarded up. What's the future for that? What's going to happen to that?
So that's been bought by a property developer and that's being converted into residential.
Wow.
Under permitted development. So we will need to keep a close eye on that because that is a big plot and potentially a lot of people moving in there. So we need to make sure that we've got good standards of development going in there.
Isn't that an income also for Croydon then? Through
arguably
housing?
Through council tax and things like that. Yes, arguably, but we also need to make it's what we call permitted development. So it's converting an office into a home, and we need to make sure that they are good quality homes being produced in there. And sometimes under permitted development, you end up with accommodation that's a bit undersized, perhaps not what we want
and
for
things
our
like
residents.
that. Yeah, I got you.
So we need to be cautious about some of these things.
So that building, does it belong to Croydon? Is it the Home Office?
No, Apollo and Luna, no. They were owned by the Home Office and they've been sold to a
right. So therefore,
nothing to do with the council.
Fine, but the potential of getting some income from it with council tax and so forth, but you still keep your eyes on it to make sure it's the accommodation's up to standards.
We need to make sure that residents are getting a decent quality of accommodation.
That's brilliant.
Which I'm sure the developer will want to provide, but we just need to be mindful of that.
It's good. That's good. Another question coming up about crime and community safety. Knife crime remains a serious concern. What targets, actions are you taking to reduce it, particularly among young people? And I know you do a lot of work in this area. I've seen you.
Yeah,
Where are we in that area?
There's a huge amount of work, and it's not just me, it's not the council, it's the community, it's the voluntary community, the faith sector. All of us together are working in partnership on this particular issue. And crime generally in Croydon is down. Overall crime, 4.1% down. Knife crime, robbery against the person, they're all down in the 20%. So crime is coming down, and that is partly to do with how we're working in partnership. You know, in 2021, 5 young teenagers lost their lives on Croydon streets. And you know, the tragedy of that, thankfully we are not in that place anymore, because as a community we've come together, we've worked together, we're doing things in a different way, and thankfully we're not in that place. But it's not by luck, it's by us pulling together, working in partnership. I mean, in the town centre, I brought together a town centre task force to deal with kind of the antisocial behaviour and the various other things happening there. And that was council officers, bringing in police colleagues, health colleagues, bringing in the voluntary sector, those dealing with drug and alcohol abuse, homeless services, to have a holistic approach to how do we deal with homelessness, how do we deal with antisocial behaviour. And also the public space protection order was brought in, we've just renewed it, so it's run for 3 years, and in that time we've seen antisocial behaviour drop by 24% in the town centre, and we've got another public space protection order in Thornton Heath. So, you know, we've taken action to directly impact these, and the live facial recognition that the police have been running in North End has been very successful. So there's a huge amount of work going on. But as I say, the crucial thing is the partnership working.
That's what I'd like to talk about, the collaborative work, you said, the partnership. What's the relationship with the police, the youth? I mean, I know I don't want to drop any names here directly, but we know Anthony King, great ambassador for crime and the knife crime and outside. How would you rate the collaborative working? How good is it?
I think it's
police and everybody in schools.
Yeah, I think it's very good in this borough. And you know, the police, they have financial challenges the same as we do as a council, as many people do. But we work very closely together. I've written to the Commissioner asking for more resource into Croydon, and we've got some more resource coming into Croydon, some intensification. So, and it's by working as a team, because we all have different powers.
Of course.
You know, police power of arrest and various other things. We've got powers, highway powers, to deal with various issues on the streets. And it's by using all of our powers and working together that we get those best results. And it may be that particular organisation is best suited to deal with that individual or that particular problem. And it's kind of, I think the council used to be we know best, we'll take charge. And I very much don't work in that way, because everyone has different skill sets.
So push them forward, let them take on the responsibility.
And, if that community group is best placed to deal with that issue, let's work with that community. We've done a lot of work with Anthony, with yourself, with other groups. Young girls has become a bigger issue.
Yes.
And we work with a group called Anema Youth, who are just focused on working with young girls. And they're doing a great job. So it's about using the right people in the right places, and not just trying to have this one-size-fits-all approach.
I like that. That's again, I've seen you out and about with the various organisations, pushing them forward, endorsing the work they do in Croydon. And I think this is the only way forward. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you managed to get from A to B in your day, but I've watched and I've seen that. I opened up the programme to say that I love Croydon. I walk through Croydon, and I am kind of saddened to see all the shops, and they're just being emptied. And we're wondering, when are we going to have that vibrancy coming back into Croydon? I've also seen an increase in homelessness. What is the vision for Croydon, and maybe your vision, that we can help to reduce or eradicate homelessness, even in Croydon? It might be a tall order, can be, but it's increasingly visible in Croydon.
So homelessness is a very complex issue, and many of the people that we see on the street that we would regard as homeless are not actually homeless. A lot of them have accommodation.
Oh, explain that.
So a lot of them have accommodation, and they're not using their accommodation. They're not able to sustain their tenancy, maybe. And this is where other issues around alcohol or drug abuse, etc., comes into play, where someone, they have accommodation, they have a tenancy, but they're struggling to hold it down because of the other things they're dealing with in their life. So that's why we're trying to take that rounded approach to support people. So, you've got accommodation, let's support you. An organisation, Change, Grow, Live, who deal with drug and alcohol dependency. They work very closely with people. And I literally had a meeting with them last week about how we can improve the relationship that we have with people. And there's a huge amount of work going on behind the scenes, which for kind of anyone walking along East Croydon Station or North End,
yes,
you probably see the same faces on a regular basis, kind of popping up here, popping up there, and you'd kind of think, well, the council's doing nothing about this. I've seen that person there for months. And the reality is the council, the police, health, Change, Grow, Live, all the partners are working on these people and trying to get them into the right accommodation, get them supported, get them back into life, as it were. Because for some, being on the streets becomes a way of life, and we've got to try to get them back to normality.
They become vulnerable as well. They're
very vulnerable.
Terribly vulnerable.
Very vulnerable, and it's a big issue, and it concerns people going about their daily lives. As you say, you see it, and it concerns you, and understandably so. And some people try to help. They sometimes give out sleeping bags or tents and feeding, etc. And sometimes that actually
does that help?
That actually keeps people on the street. And what we need to try and do is try and get people off the street. And there's a project working at the moment where churches have come together and voluntary sector groups, and they're doing a night shelter down at West Croydon, and the council's put some funding into that as well. And that's about getting people off the street, getting them into warmth, giving them a meal, helping them with whatever issue may be going on in their lives, etc. So sometimes in trying to do good, you could be keeping someone on the street. So it's a very, very difficult
I know it's a
balance.
cycle. I know. 'Cause you're right. They do move around, and you're saying, how can you have a quality of life being on the streets? And how did you get there? And some of them said, I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't get a job. I haven't got no, I can't register anything. The cycle just continues. So I just wanted to know what other organisations are out there.
So we are doing a lot. We've just launched a new service, a kind of a rapid response service to try and deal with people even quicker. To get them off the street.
From the council?
From the council, and again, it's working in partnership. So it's not just about the council doing it, it's about how we work together, how we all understand the individuals that we're dealing with, and how we can deal with the problem. And it's a very challenging situation. And sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back. You get someone into accommodation, then something goes wrong and they're back. So
this is why it's so important to have programs like this, because we'll look and we'll make the first judgment and say, oh, this council's not doing anything for Croydon. Having you here, Mr. Mayor, and Jason will tell us exactly what's in place. As I say, I see this man move among his community. I will say that. He's there, he understands what's going on, but this is where the rubber hits the road, because we bring him into a position like this, an environment where we can ask questions. And these questions, it's not just something I just randomly put together. You brought these, you were concerned, and I'm just hoping that these questions are answered. There's a lot on your shoulder in your team, especially having the commissions breathing down your neck as well to deliver on every aspect. I get it. I can't also not talk about, as I travel Croydon, the fly tipping issue. I know loads of people are affected, many neighbourhoods, and they're wondering, where's the enforcement? Who's stopping this? Who's making sure that these are things that are stopped? What's the strategic way of making sure that we can put something in place that this issue will be dealt with effectively? What's your answer to the fly tipping, which it's a nuisance?
It is, and it ruins people's daily lives, because they're proud of where they live, proud of their home, walk out the door, there's a fly tip. That's your day ruined, isn't it? And it just brings the whole area down. It's not what we want in our borough. And I think the reality is, the previous council hollowed out the services that were in the council, took away neighbourhood support officers and various things. Fly tipping increased exponentially, and that's something that we've had to pick up on. In reality, it's taken 2 or 3 years to get the council functioning as a proper functioning organisation that can do things. The council I inherited was broken almost beyond repair, and it's taken a long time to fix the governance, fix the morale, and kind of build services back within the council. And now we've got enforcement officers back. We're taking a zero tolerance approach.
This is what you've done under your government to deal with this.
Yeah, so in the last 6 to 8 months, we've really started motoring on this now. I would have liked to have done it sooner, but we just didn't have the resource as a council to do that. So we've got the compliance officers, so they're on the streets where there's a fly tip, they're opening the bags, they're looking for evidence, they're marking the bags as they've been looked into, we're investigating. And we've now got the crews that pick up fly tipping, they work on pads, sort of iPads with their jobs on there. They can now take pictures as evidence. So if they open a bag and find an address, they'll take a picture, that comes through as evidence from Veolia, comes through to the council, and then we'll issue fixed penalty notices on the back. So this year, we've issued over 300 fixed penalty notices for fly tipping in the borough. And that's the kind of start of this zero tolerance. We're not going to put up with this anymore. The majority of residents living in this borough are law-abiding, go about their business. We've got a minority who are ruining it for everybody. So we're taking that zero-tolerance approach. We've got compliance officers. We're dealing with these issues. And we're also starting to deal with private land as well. So the council has always been, it's private land, not my problem. I'm always of the view, for someone walking down the street, they're not interested whether it's private or council. They
want the view.
They want it dealt with. So we are now contacting landowners. It takes a little bit longer. We can't clear it as quick. At the moment, 90% of fly tips picked up in 24 hours. So a very quick turnaround. but we need to try and eradicate the problem.
What type of fines do you place on these things as a good deterrent?
So £400 is kind of the starting point. We've done a couple of prosecutions, and it can get into thousands and tens of thousands of pounds. So we have some of those that have now gone through court, been prosecuted.
Good.
But on private land, we're asking landowners to sort their land out. If they don't do it, we're now at the point, and we've done one recently in Hathaway Road, where we've actually gone in, we've cleared the land, we've secured the land, we've put hoardings up and secured it, and we're now going to put a charge on that property for the cost of the clearance and the cost of the hoarding.
Good.
So at some point, if that property is sold, we will get our money back. And that's how we're starting to tackle some of these issues. And in January, we saw a 12% reduction in fly tipping in the borough. Excellent. So we're already starting to see a change. And certainly when I move around the borough, there is fly tipping, that's for sure. But if I think back to 4 years ago, I think there's a lot less than there was 4 years ago. And generally speaking, the borough feels a lot cleaner and brighter. If we remember, the grass wasn't cut back in 21, 22. The grass was 4, 5, 6 foot high. Yeah. The verges were up here. If you went to the park, you'd lose your children in the grass. And all those things are now being done. I've restored a number of services
because of budgets
like that, and
the
place is looking. It's looking good. We've got to start believing in Croydon again.
Well, I do. I believe it. I can see things happening. So that's good to hear that there's a heavy levy as far as fly tipping is concerned. You take it on very much as far as the environment is concerned. Okay, we're moving on. Here's the bit for me. Long-term goals for Whitgift Centre. I mean, you must hear everybody talk about that.
Yeah.
We've been hearing so many things to bring it back to its former glory. What is the long-term goal? What will happen eventually to the Whitgift Centre?
So there is a master plan for the Whitgift Centre. We are seeing change in the town centre. The Alders Parade, we've seen the frontage of Alders restored.
Couple of shops.
We've seen the 6 units underneath, and the 7th is being done as we speak. We've seen those open. When I said the shops would open, everyone said, oh, more vape shops, more pots and pan shops. And I was like, no, they're going to be quality shops, and we've got a great cafe there, an ice cream parlour, a florist, a dress shop. We've got some really nice shops there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really lifted that end of North End. To think we had the building hoarded and going derelict for 12 years.
Couldn't believe it.
It's such a difference now. The Central planning application has come in to remodel the front of Central. That's due to be decided on next week or two if it's not been done already. We're spending £10 million on the public realm of North End. So we've started doing a bit of decluttering. We've taken out. There are a lot of benches very close together that were causing kind of antisocial behaviour a little bit. Lots of bike racks never used, flooding outside Primark, quite small things, but they're just drag an area down. So we've dealt with a lot of that as preliminary works, and then we've got the full scheme to come through. But it's that master plan, and I think we're locals, and we remember what the Whitgift Centre was. We remember the high street.
Amazing.
Life has changed. Shopping habits have changed.
Online now.
We all buy online.
Yes.
But there's still a need for a destination and shops. And, when I came into office, Unibail Rodamco Westfield they were a partner with Hammerson.
That's what we was hearing.
Hammerson had the Central. Unibail Rodamco Westfield had the Whitgift Centre. I met with them monthly. I put huge pressure on them to start doing something. And in December 23, Unibail Rodamco Westfield bought Hammerson out. So at that point, essentially, we started again. Because that is the point at which one organisation had that control. By December 24, we had a full master plan in place, adopted by the planning committee. Alders Parade has opened, the Central planning application has come in, The Wellesley Road crossing, which is more to do with the council,
that's very nice.
has been
I must
delivered.
admit. Very good.
At the other side, the underpass is filled in and gone.
Yeah.
You know, and the Whitgift site itself, I think we get nostalgia kicks in and we're like, when's the Whitgift Centre going to reopen? Well, it's going to evolve, it's going to change, it's going to become residential, big elements of it on Wellesley Road. It's going to be more leisure in there going forward, and that's all part of the master plan. And if we think back 50 years ago, that was school playing fields. It's become a shopping centre.
And now
it's ever evolving. It's now moving on to residential and green spaces and connectivity through the site. So, you know, it's not going to be done overnight.
I hear you.
It's probably another 5-10 years to actually get to what we may regard as a finished product. But we'll see the retail focused on North End, Alders, Central, that change in the Whitgift Centre. And, you know, there's a real vision there for a bustling, vibrant town centre that's also a bit of a destination, and it's got leisure and it's got you know, experience economy. It's got stuff going on. Go for the day with the family, and people can go off, do their own thing, come back for a meal.
But that's good. You see, this is what I'm saying. That's what we brought you here in the studio, to talk about the possibilities. People can do whatever they want. They'll criticize, pull down. It's going to be this. It's going to become a ghetto area. But having you here, telling us and feeding us the dream that, yes, Croydon will change. It's not. It's evolving.
Yeah.
We're thinking differently, shopping differently. It's just that voice telling us that something is in the pipeline. Just stick with us on this, and look at the other improvements that has taken place.
Yeah.
And I have hope, and I really do. Believe in your leadership. As I said, I watch you, I see you, what you're doing. You're getting quite good in your social media as well, I've noticed.
I can't take all the credit.
You're doing good. You're doing good on that. Look, let's round this up. We opened in the program and then we said the 6 weeks. 6 weeks before the re-election.
Not long now.
How do you see that going? And would you say you're looking forward to delivering on all the promises you've made?
I think I've delivered on, you know, pretty much most of the promises I gave last time round. I've certainly set out to deliver and to show people that, you know, there is leadership there. We are changing as a borough. We're moving forward, and you know, we've achieved a lot. Croydon is back on track.
Do you think residents should trust you to deliver?
They should trust me. I think, you know, I know politicians have a bad rap, and politicians are not trusted. And you know, I think residents should trust me. You can trust me. If I think of the library changes that I made, you know, we had 13 libraries in this borough, and most of them were part-time, open 2 days a week, some maybe 3. And I said I wanted to close 4 of those libraries. I wanted to make the rest full-time, and I wanted to turn those 4 into community bases. And everybody thought that my ambition was to close them, to sell them. I just wanted to strip the asset, sell the asset. And now we sit here today, we've got 9 full-time libraries in this borough, open 5-6 days a week. They're all open on Saturday, they're all staffed on Saturday.
Well, my grandson is benefiting from that.
Yeah, and you know, that's in Thornton Heath, that's in Norbury, it's in Purley, it's central, you know, all over the borough. And we have those 4 community bases up and running. You know, the old Broad Green Library was open 2 days a week.
Yes.
Asian Resource Centre are now running that for the whole community.
It's nice.
It's open 6 days a week. They've done an amazing job.
These are things we just don't know.
And there's still a library element to it. Shirley Library was open 2 days a week, now open 5-6 days a week, at the heart of the community. And for the first time, those 4 buildings on their own have become community bases, really at the heart of their local communities. So that's what I promised I would do, and that is what I have done.
Excellent.
So I think you can trust me, because I do what I say. And when I make a decision, it may be a really difficult decision, but I will stick with it. Because we've made a decision, we need to follow things through. And sometimes they're difficult decisions.
I know.
And there's a lot of noise,
Leadership.
and a lot of worry, but we have to stick with it.
On that note, let's stick with you. They stick with you.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for all that you've done. And I want also to thank you. I received this as well from you on receiving my British Empire Medal.
Yeah.
And it was so lovely to get something from you from the your office congratulating me on that. And again, I really do thank you for that. All we can do is do what we are instructed from Scripture. Pray for those who are in authority over us, and that's you. I pray that God will continue, from where I'm standing, give you the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding. I pray that when the time comes, people will understand and look at Croydon and understand that you've got a heart for it, and will do what they know to be right. Jason, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And I'm sure our viewers have been enlightened in the areas of the questions that I posed to you. You answered them as if, I'm dealing with these issues every day of my working life. And we'll just see. I've got hope for Croydon because I'm born and bred.
We've all got hope for Croydon. We know it's moving in the right direction. Lots done, lots to do. And we're going to move forward as a borough.
And I love the way you're working with all the different faiths. And there's several church groups that you're on. You're talking to them, sharing just as you are. And we hope that this reaches people that have a better picture, better understanding of what Jason does for us here in Croydon. Thank you for watching. And remember, you're the head and not the tail. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Brilliant.